Andrew Tackett. If you've been around a while, you know exactly who I'm talking about. And if you haven't been, just go ahead and Google most exciting match of CJI or potentially most exciting jiu-jitsu match of all time. And you'll see him and Cade Rutolo going at one of the craziest matches I have ever seen in my life. But since then, we haven't heard too much from Andrew about what his future competition plans are, and we haven't heard anything about who he might be going against. Guys, this is Sean with PDMA, and today is another installment in the Who's Next series. Now, quickly, if you're not familiar with this series, what we do here is we take a grappler who's a pretty active competitor, but maybe doesn't have a match lined up yet, and we look at what are some good options for that person going forward as far as who their next opponent could be. Today, like I mentioned earlier, we're talking about Andrew Tackett. So we're going to go over 3 people that I think would be really good matchups for Andrew Tackett in the near future. Now, when we talk about a guy like Andrew Tackett, we actually almost even have the whole gambit of people to choose from, right? I mean, we've seen Andrew Tackett go against some of the smaller guys in our sport, maybe around his weight or a little bit lower, and then we've seen him take on up to Big Dan Monasoyo. So we have some leeway here. Now, when I picked the 3 people that I picked, I'm not gonna lie, they're pretty much all in Andrew's like natural weight class-ish, you know, depending up or down a little bit. But I think going forward, these matches made sense because they are at his like natural size, we'll call it. So the first name on this list is going to be somebody that I think could just make such an exciting match when paired with Andrew Tackett. You would see technical jiu-jitsu mixed with just pure athleticism, and that is Mika Galvao. Now, if you remember, these two actually met at Who's Number 1 in 2021, and Mika did win, and to be honest, he pretty definitively won, I would say. Now, he didn't like completely dominate Andrew, and Andrew had a really good showing that day, but you have to remember with these young guys, 3 years later is kind of a big deal. Now, both of these guys have grown as grapplers, and we've seen them compete consistently. Obviously, Mika at ADCC this year and Andrew at CJI this year being most recent, but they have been super active competitors ever since this Who's Number 1 match, and I just think putting these 2 guys together, 2 young guys, 2 athletic guys who now have a couple more accomplishments under their belt, I think would just make for such a fun match to watch. Plus, I don't know Andrew personally, but if I were him, I kind of want that one back. So, you know, maybe give it another shot. So when I was making this list for a guy like Andrew Tackett, it would have been really easy to just be like, oh, let me just do all 3 rematches. 3 guys he's gone against before. I just want to see that. So I wanted to make sure I pick somebody that, to my knowledge, he has not gone against yet. And that, in this case, is Levi Jones Leary. So Levi's been around the grappling scene for a while, but he became more or less a household name, at least in like grappling households, this summer at CJI when he went against Cade Rutolo, and then not to mention his run for the entire CJI up through Cade Rutolo. I mean, it was just awesome. We saw some of the best guard playing we have seen out of almost any competitor. We even got to see him play top a little bit, and when I say play top a little bit, I mean we got to see a very successful plan and strategy put out by Levi when Cade pulled guard, but I made a breakdown video on that you can go watch. I'll link it here. So the reason I think Levi would be really good was because we've all seen the videos of Cade trying to pass Levi's guard generally unsuccessfully, and I mean, not to mention everybody else. It's just Cade's the one that everybody kind of remembers. But now I would be curious to see how Andrew attacks that guard. Like, we know how one of the best guard passers in the game in Cade Rutolo would do it, but now how's Andrew going to do it? I don't think Andrew and Cade are going to approach that problem the same way just based on watching both of them. So I think watching a guy like Andrew be forced to attack a guy like Levi's guard would just make for a super, super interesting and technical match. Not to mention, Levi's not just a guard player. Levi might very well choose to stand. And I don't know if he's going to wrestle Andrew Tackett, but if there's a situation where Andrew has to play guard, which he has a very good guard, we might get to see how his guard is when it's tested against a guard passer like Levi. Again, we only saw a small smidgen of Levi's passing ability at CJI, but go watch some of his old matches. You can see this guy is no slouch when it comes to guard passing, and Andrew Tackett, even though he's known kind of for being a top player and for being a wrestler and all this, I mean, both Tackett brothers just have insane guards. So I think Levi Jones Leary would be a really good opponent for Andrew Tackett, especially if you're like me and like to watch super, super technical jiu-jitsu. And for the last potential opponent for Andrew Tackett, I'm going to say possibly the most predictable thing I've ever said on this channel, Cade Rutolo. Now, guys, if you're saying you don't want to see that match again, I got nothing for you. Maybe this isn't the channel for you, because I want to see that match again, and most people I know that are into submission grappling want to see that match again. I would watch that match all day, every day. What a great match it was. It was such a fun example of what submission grappling, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, whatever you want to call it, can be. But now we have to talk about how do we want to see that match? Because I think most of us, we want to see that match. And so realistically, you know, I would watch that match no matter what organization it's in, ADCC, CJI, whatever. But here's how I realistically think it could happen. Now, keep in mind, also, I know nothing about promoting fights, so I'm going to talk about something that I have no idea what I'm talking about. So if I sound stupid, it's because, again, I don't know what I'm talking about. But if Chatri called me and said, hey, Sean, you're in charge of One Championship Grappling for the day, do what you want. Here's what I would do. If I were them, I would call Andrew Tackett and say, hey, Andrew, here's a lot of money. Here's like a lot of money. Like, that number can be whatever, you know, compared to what One Championship grapplers usually make. But I would give him, again, a lot of money and say, hey, here's a one fight deal. And that match is going to be against Cade Rutolo. And then we just put that match on One Championship. We build up One Championship as a legitimate submission grappling organization, which to me, they already are. I actually am a big fan of how One does submission grappling. Not necessarily more or less than any other particular organization, but I am a fan of how they do it. And I just think that that would be a way for this match to get in front of a bunch of people. It could happen soon. We don't have to wait for like ADCC or CJI or anything like that. One puts on cards pretty consistently, and it would just be a fun one to watch. It would be interesting to see how it works with a different rule set, and ultimately I would love to see this under a CJI rule set again, because if you guys have been watching this channel, you know I really like the CJI rule set. I really like the alley. I really like everything that's going on over there. But I still think One Championship has a really good way to do it. I like the catch system. So let's see Andrew Tackett versus Cade Rutolo on One Championship. Let's get both these guys paid and let's watch some fun grappling. So those are my 3 picks for who I think would be fun for Andrew Tackett to go against next, both for him and for us fans. But now it's time to turn it over to you guys. What do you guys think? Who do you want to see Andrew Tackett go against next? I'm curious to see who you guys think would be a fun matchup. Are there any rematches that you guys do want to see that I didn't go over? Just drop that in the comments below. If you guys enjoy this style of content and want to see more videos like this, as well as match breakdowns, BJJ news, current events, anything like that, go ahead and click that subscribe button. That really lets me know that I'm making the kind of videos that you guys want to see. Quickly too, this video is not sponsored by anybody, but I do want to shout out my friends at Fuel Hunt. They make some really great gear. They have switched to making it all in America, which is no easy task. So if you guys need grappling gear, head over to their website. I will link that below. With all that being said, I just want to say thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.